a fantastic and see how you kind of synthesize all the things you've learned this week. And incidentally, we're just a week from International Women's Day, so no better time to reflect on conversations around accelerating action and just thinking about where we are as a country and thinking about some very important nuanced milestones that we can begin to take to remove barriers and accelerate, increase opportunities and resources to accelerate gender justice in Nigeria. I know when we hear the word gender justice, it sounds like it's very ambitious. Like, how do we get to that point where there's just so much going on that we can say there's equitable access to resources and opportunities for everyone to achieve their full potential? But guess what? If we don't dare to dream, we may never really have what we want. So this is an opportunity for us to just put out the guardrails, open up your mind. Let's have a real conversation and not the conversations that are conservative based on our mindsets that tell us that there's so much that is possible in Nigeria. So I want to just sit back and listen, looking forward to the rich conversations that are coming from this room. And I have the wonderful pleasure of welcoming our moderator for this day. Let's put our hands together for Coach Diddi. Okay, hello everyone, good afternoon. Okay, like she said, let's keep it real, right? And the theme for this year is accelerate action. If you're with me in Nigeria, I'll also talk. No action, right? So I want to explore solutions to bridge this gap that has been existing for a very long time. And I have these amazing speakers from this room, among so many others. And I'm going to start with the first person here, Maryam Augie-Abdulmumin, the Executive Director of Ilimi Children's Fund. And I have Amina, Hanga, Director, Wali Empowerment Initiative. And we'll course Dr. Lilian, Nneka, the Executive Director and Technical Advisor, TAConnect. Then Mr. Peter Akinnusi, Head of Programs, TechHerNG Nigeria. And last but not the least, of course, Alabi Adeola Israel, Gender Research Associate. And with me, these people, we are going to sit together and explore practical solutions to bridge this gap in order to advance gender equality in Nigeria. The first question goes to you, ma'am, Mrs. Augie-Abdulmumin. What are the biggest financial barriers for women entrepreneurs in Nigeria? What do you think they are?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here, especially in front of all of you today. It's been a very insightful 5 days from two perspectives. You find that the problems are almost the same but complex in a way. When you look at the problems faced in rural communities and the problem faced in urban communities, you find in rural communities you have limited access to banking opportunities, where most of these women still use this problem. And you're a business owner and you do have access to some of these opportunities. You find that the access to loans are very complex. You find that you have the processes to actually accessing these loans are a problem. Nigeria currently has about 27.5 interest rate at the moment. Now think about it from a business point of view. You're borrowing 100 million to scale your business and you have 27% interest rates, where do you begin from? How do we create programs that women can have single digit interest rates that would enable them actually scale their businesses? Now, when you look at financial literacy, I think we have to clap for ourselves, women, in how far we have come in entrepreneurship in Nigeria. We have to. I come from a generation, and I don't know how many of you would agree with me here, where starting a business at a teenage age was not even considered. You know, you dare not even go to your parents and say, what is even business that you tell your parents? I put you in school, finish school. But you have 16-year-olds businesses. But at the same time, when you run those businesses in the proper way, some of them do not even know how to keep their books. Now, when you look at that, it's actually problems that are faced both in rural and urban areas. So how do we see how we can improve on that by ensuring that these girls or these women, irrespective of where you are, actually do have access to the type of, then you have, of course, like cultural and social norms, like was rightly said earlier. One of it would be the intense scrutiny that women face when they want to have access to loans. And why is that? The reason being the skepticism that people have to women actually being able to handle large sums. A man can come in and say a 500 million simply because he's man, they think he can handle it. But if you're a woman and you say, I want 500 million, they will look at you, scrutinize you, look at your books, ensure that you actually have the right team that can do it, you know. So I think these are some of the areas that I would say are areas that we're facing.
Financial literacy and access to loans. Amina, Hanga, what are the biggest policy gaps you think hindering gender equality implementation in Nigeria?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Nigeria has actually made some progress compared to so many years ago. Now we have on gender policies like the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which has been domesticated in almost all the states in the country, apart from one state, unfortunately, is the state I come from, Kano. And we also have the National Gender Policy. So again, that still has to be domesticated in many states. And again, Kano hasn't domesticated it. And we have the National Women's Economic Empowerment Policy. So we have some policies, but the problem or the challenge still remains that, okay, we have the policies, then what? So we find that we have lack of enforcement, or lack of implementation, or in fact, poor implementation. So in the states where these policies are in existence, implementation of them is not being carried out, or it's still very poor. And some of this is also due to the fact that the duty bearers, some of them, are not aware or don't really have full knowledge about these policies. And so they're not looking at how it can be implemented. The legal enforcement agencies themselves are not gender aware. So we find cases that may come, let's say, to police, domestic violence or intimate partner violence cases. They're saying, go home, this is a family affair, go and resolve your issue at home. And this can result in very terrible consequences sometimes for the woman. Sometimes we see women losing their lives over this. Lack of funding. So yes, we have these policies, but what about the budget to go with implementing these policies? So we need to have gender-responsive budgets that speak to these policies so that implementation can be carried out effectively in the respective states. And limited access to justice. So here, this is a huge problem. We have over 70% of the population lives in poverty. So that means access to justice for them is a big issue. One, because they can't afford the cost of lawyers, they can't afford the time it takes sometimes to resolve cases to be resolved. And some of the ways that we could, and then there's lack of maybe shelters and stuff. So these are the things. So we need shelters, we need safe spaces for victims or survivors um, of gender-based violence or violence of any kind. We also need community paralegals, and I'm really passionate about this because we know that lawyers are not enough in this country. And so therefore we need to have community-based paralegals who can provide basic first legal aid services in their communities and challenges exist on both the supply side and the demand side. And I will start with the supply side, which is our health facilities. How, and I say this because she asked us to do it, and we've been doing a lot of how this affects women and how they seek care. And on the demand side, let's look at all the issues that the woman faces. When there's a delay in the decision, even to seek care, because so she has to wait for the man or the mother-in-law to actually give the permission for her to even agree to seek go and seek care. And when she does that, and then even the money, if it's somewhere that she even has to buy a card as low as 500 naira, you see that this is even a problem for her. Then there's the distance to access the service where the care, the facilities are. Earlier on, there was when we talked about how far the woman has to go to be able to access services. And in some places, we've had instances of when she's in labor where we've had to network with the Union of Road Transport Workers or things like that. Some people are fabricating some types of protect to be able to get pregnant women to health facilities on time, because we know how we lack ambulances, even in the best of hospitals, not to talk of in rural areas. And all these things kind of disenfranchise the woman to from seeking care. However, under the current president, the Honorable, the Coordinating Minister for Health, is on a course to crush and crush maternal mortality, as we like to say. So all these aspects are being looked environments that are able to cater for the woman, to also empower the woman to make decision. And I would also highlight one of our flagship programs, which is the group antenatal model of care, in which there's several sessions during the antenatal services, and the women are followed up in cohorts. They come together, they are educated, they have their own educational charts where they take home to even educate their families. There are sessions for them to bring in their husbands or the decision makers in the home for them to be educated. Also, they're also educated on danger signs in their pregnancy and encouraged to come on time. So that they would have their deliveries taken by skilled birth. If all these measures are in place, it will really help to accelerate good maternal health in the country. Thank you.
add something in 1 minute. This has been a problem for a long time, especially in northern Nigeria, where we send our daughters to school. In one sentence or in 1 minute, what do you think we can do about that?
Well, the advantage of educating the girl child cannot be overemphasized. And so we are also really looking at the skill mapping in these places. And we are also having models that would show the benefits of female education, and having communities actually choose workers from within themselves who are able to people they are familiar with, to educate both the homes, the girls, and their husbands on the benefits of educating their girl child, and even having them train. Right, nursing and is involved in this, because there's that recognition that we do need more women in the field by male healthcare workers would see that there are female healthcare workers and be encouraged to allow them access care. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Now, Mr. Peter Akinnusi, which is of course our group leader, and we're going to win. This question is for you. Basically, it's about enhancing social safety nets, and ensuring equitable resource allocation. How can technology be used to bridge gender gaps in education and employment?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Good afternoon, everyone. Great pleasure to be here. I've had a lovely time this past few days with everyone. That's a very important question, but I guess before we even tackle that, there's this way people tend to answer questions about safety, where we tend to almost forget that we're in a world that is becoming increasingly digital. And what that means for us is we're seeing, there's this theory that talks about how the technological advancement that happened, we're seeing greater inventions and all of that. Great benefits for every one of us, but it also comes with the attendant danger that digital harms are going to increase. Now, what we've also seen is that more and more people tend to ignore that when we talk about safety, safety is supposed to be holistic. It's not just offline safety. There's the concept of online safety that's increasingly becoming popular, that's increasingly becoming a problem, right? Here in Nigeria, because it's a nascent issue, you can easily, for us to ask anybody in the crowd now to quickly Google stats on GBV, we'll be able to get the famous 1 in 3 women have experienced some form of violence. You know, we can get ages, we can even get disaggregated data for even boys, right? But when you ask how many people, for example, are familiar with any forms of online violence, there might be a bit of silence there, mostly because there hasn't been a lot of attention given to these sorts of endeavors. Most just the internet, you can switch it off, right? Now, while that is a growing menace, I believe, and based on the work we've done, especially at TechHerNG, we've seen that one of the biggest ways to tackle this is digital literacy. And when we say digital literacy, it's easy to say, why are we talking about digital literacy when, as it were, the numbers for education are lagging incredibly behind? I think we're top 2, top 3 when it comes for out of school children in the world, about 6% of that number, whichever number you find, by the way, because today UNICEF says this number, tomorrow, you know, it's another number, and it tends to be that 6% of that number is female. Yes, I totally understand that, but we must come to terms with the reality that more and more of us are coming online in Nigeria, right? There's high internet penetration rates. We're seeing more and more devices being proliferated, whether we like it or not. Even children who are not in school want to go online and interact in one way or the other with either entertaining content or with their peers on digital platforms. Now, what do we do in response to this? A couple of things have to be put in place, starting first and foremost from the policy level. It is not just enough, you know, for governments, for institutions to say, oh, we want to invest in internet connections. I'm not trying to be, you know, controversial, troublesome person, but I see every 90 days somebody's talking about a policy framework for AI. Another person's talking about a policy framework for, I believe the digital literacy framework is supposed to come online in 2030. That's 5 years from now. it's not realistic. And I say it's not realistic because we've done a lot of work where we've gone to schools and seen rural communities that are not connected to the power grid. They are not connected to even any form of telephony at all, right? What are we doing in that regard? So digital literacy is not just getting more women to be able to access skills. It's also getting some form of infrastructure, baseline, like basic infrastructure available. There's also the conversation to be had about online safety. And why is online safety important? We know that society tends to punish vocal women. We don't need to talk about, what is going on right now. Someone made a comment and said, perhaps the reason why they're trying to silence Senator Natasha is because if we have too many of her, we'll burn down the Senate. Do you know how many of us remember the photograph of a lawmaker jumping over a fence? A dignified lawmaker. Was it a man or a woman? I'm not going to say more than that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to, again, I said I'm not going to say more than that. But we need to come to a place where we're making deliberate effort to protect women's voices online. Because what tends to happen is when different forms of online violence occur, women retreat. And like we've been saying, we can't afford to have half of the room quiet because it's to our detriment as men, it's to our detriment as a society.
On that note, I'll quickly ask you this, because when I came for this program, one of the first people I met was your colleague, Jemima.
Yes.
And when she said OGBV, I paused for a minute because I know GBV, I didn't know OGBV.
Yeah.
And she explained in a clear term. She said, have you ever had a situation whereby somebody just sends you a video of himself? And I was, oh my God, it happened to me.
Yes.
I just opened up my phone one day and there was a WhatsApp call. And as I clicked on it, there was a nude man who was stroking himself. My phone fell from my hand.
Yeah.
And over time, for almost 6 weeks, this person kept on using different numbers.
Yeah.
And I was saying, did I give anybody the impression? So, and I was shocked. And she told me that it's actually very common.
Yeah. So see, the funny thing is that this is something a few people chuckled, and I feel almost some compassion for you because you're having to justify and ask yourself, did I give anybody impression?
Yes.
It doesn't, the truth is consent. And that's the thing. When we talk about GBV and physical violence, we speak about consent. People forget that consent extends to the digital spaces as well, right? And what we're seeing is an increase I've had instances where we have something called Quram. Quram is this response and resourcing platform where people who have suffered from some form of online violence, TFGBV, that's tech assisted gender-based violence or online gender-based violence, can come and make a report. And the idea is that we take these cases, our pipeline, the path to justice force is a bunch of things. But we've had instances when we went to law enforcement, and it was a case of someone who sent intimate photographs of herself to an ex-partner, and he was trying to use it as some form of exploitation. This is sexploitation of sorts, right? And sextortion. And the police officer looked at looked at the officers rather that we sent and said, why are we stressing? Like, were we there when she was sending the photograph to him? Why is this a problem? So we see that for a layer of awareness, we need more people to that if the information environment is tainted, right, we're not going to make progress. We'll design the best policies, have amazing panels, gather in rooms and build capacity. But unless we're able to translate it to languages people understand, not just languages, formats, multi-formats, like we have to ask ourselves, there's a very popular radio person. I don't like him. That's me. But I've also realized that as much as I don't like his style, he's one of the easiest ways to reach people. So we have to ask ourselves, where do people get their values from? Where do they get their news from? How can we meet them there and then speak about digital literacy? Then also just to round up the response, we also have to be very serious about mentorship, because the truth is, one of our biggest theories of change is we believe that if we put women in community, just by virtue of proximity, they have more access to opportunities, to skills, right? To learning. They are able to learn in close proximity to other women. So we should be able to encourage mentorships, community building, network building, just for the sake of being able to provide access to women, because these barriers exist for a reason. And then another thing we tend to not do is to research a bit. Like, if we're going to push for advocacy with the state government and say, look, Ministry of Justice or ICT or digital economy, whatever it is, that's the MDA in question, we need to be able to show them actionable data, numbers, and insights that are actually provable, like and repeatable for us to be able to do better programming.
Thank you, Mr. Akinnusi, for that. Mr. Alabi, Adeola. Okay, women in agriculture. What do you think is the biggest challenge these women face?
That's been rewarding. Uh, the main challenge with women in agriculture is land. You want to discuss agriculture, you're talking about land. Agriculture is the first, I believe, the first economic activities, moving from hunting and gathering. The next thing is to planting, and that's land. Who controls the land? Do women have access to land? They don't have access to means of livelihood. So that's the basis. We start from that. Access to resources is the basis of challenges facing women. When I say access to resources, it goes beyond land, but I just pinpoint land first because it is the first element. And let me emphasize more a bit on the land. Most women are left disenfranchised the moment they get married. They are, in that context, they are disowned from having access to land from their own family. If you don't have a say in your own family, how much say do you expect to have in a family where you are a stranger to many, to many? I don't quite agree. But land is not an individually owned thing. It's a communal, societal owned property, asset. So even if your husband is on your side, there is this challenge with the extended family. And we know the value system here. So last year, I met some women for them to even assess financial services. They were told to ensure their husband is one of the guarantors. That's a challenge for a woman facing domestic abuse or who is having some issues with her husband. How does she get that kind of support? Some men are not even comfortable in their skin when their women are empowered. How do we want that kind of man to empower his woman? And the list goes on and on. Transportation. Thank God we have moved ahead. We have more women driving, but how many women do we have driving trucks? So we can talk that, oh, Nigeria, there's no restriction to that, but how many women drive truck? If you hear of women mechanic, how do you respond? These are issues that are often overlooked, but they determine what happens. So access to resources is a core, is at the basis. You start from there. Another is knowledge. Who are the extension officers? To cast. When I got the notification that I'll be doing this, I was ready. I was planning. I would talk about Nigeria for Women projects. And again, even from IITA, the basics, they've done a lot. And I have a particular testimony that I saw. We interviewed some group in Benue State. This group is women-only group. We talk about land. They come together as a group, over 300 women forming a group. They come together as a group, they acquire land. They individually do not have access to that resources, but collectively, their agency got empowered. And you can imagine a land, the government
from them, took some of the land, a huge sort of the land from them. But here is the good thing. What I learned, the lesson learned about that, is the fact that because they are collectives, they could take on even the government. And now negotiation is going on. Who would negotiate with a woman in the first place? But that's credit to projects like Basics.
Fantastic. That's why we hear they say, if you want to go a long way, go with other women, right? Sis, what role do you think mentorship programs play in breaking leadership barriers in Nigeria?
I don't think we can underestimate what mentorship. I'll give a personal example. Amina Mohammed is like my ultimate, and that's why yesterday when they put her eyes, I immediately recognized that. Amina Mohammed is my ultimate. I look up to her in every way. And I attended an event. She's not my mentor, but I just want you to understand how seeing somebody in a certain position can also influence who you are and what your aspirations could be. So I went to an event, I think her 60th birthday, and she spoke as to how she got to where she got to. And it resonated with me in every way possible. Like I could pinpoint at every point in her life how I could relate to how she got to where she got to. And I speak to you today. I may never become UN generalist. Who knows? I never, maybe zeal and aspiration to say that she has been able to do it. I will be able to do it is within me. It's a fire that burns within me. And this is someone who I've not had close relationship with to even say, okay, we're having one-on-one for her to mentor me and get me to. So when you look at it in that way, you need to understand that we need to create safe spaces for women where we can share. Never underestimate your capacity or the power that you have in influencing another life. You're here today. The people look at you and admire where you have gotten to. Like you said, the power of agency is very, very important. And I'm glad that I learned that. I learned that here. I'm really glad that I learned that here. We have a program in my organization targeted at public school students. So what we did is to create a mentorship program for teachers and adolescent girls. To do what? How do we improve the transition and completion rates of the girl child within secondary schools, especially from junior secondary school to senior secondary schools? We've been able to get across over 800 teachers and over 4,000 girls. What we did was to attach 5 girls to a teacher and simply telling these teachers, listen, identify those outliers, because there are outliers in every school that once they get an opportunity, like the video that Dr. shared earlier, it's all about opportunity. Being in the right place, being at the right time. So identifying those outliers that need an opportunity. They need a certain level of exposure to know that it is possible. They can attain whatever. They want to be engineers, they want to be doctors, it is possible. Neuroscientists, it is possible. Just help them, and technology also helps influence that. Because all you have to do is play a YouTube video and they see somebody. I have seen somebody from afar. Maybe because she's Nigerian, yes, but there are also women out there that you look up to, like Hillary Clinton. She's one of my biggest role models, that I look up to. But you can see them from afar, and they actually ignite a fire within you that will burn for the rest of your life. So I think what I would say here is do not underestimate that the individual powers that you have in influencing people.
Thank you. Basically, mentors expand the boundaries of your thinking. Okay, Hajia Hanga, what role do CSOs and advocacy groups play in holding institutions accountable? I think our major problem in Nigeria is accountability, isn't it?
Yes, so CSOs are mobilizers. They speak out for the voices of those that can't speak out or do not have the platforms to speak out. And they're also the watchdogs of government. And they play many roles. So it's not just one role, it's really a multiple role in terms of holding governments accountable. Looking earlier on, I spoke about the laws or the gender policies like the VAP Act, Child Rights Act, the National We policies, all of those. So they look at what are those gender gaps and that need to be bridged, and they bring it to the attention of government. And not only that, but when they see that even so, they support government actually, and they do that in other ways as well, like training or providing the kind of support that would help them to be able to either bring these policies into place, or if it's in terms of implementation, they're providing the capacity building that these government bodies need to be able to implement these policies. They also raise awareness. So this awareness, it's at community level upwards, because whatever we're doing, we need to make sure that, okay, yes, so we have laws and policies in place, but when even the people, the ordinary people, are not aware of them, it's as really as good as nothing, because it means they don't know what those rights of theirs are and what are those laws that protect their rights. So they educate, raise awareness about them through different ways. It could be through the media, it could be through outreaches. They use different forms for raising awareness. They also provide other forms of capacity building in terms of, like, for women, economic empowerment. We know that if a woman is financially independent, she is able to stand up for not only herself but for her family as well. So they provide those support for women. I think they also, no, oh, sorry, not I think. So these are some of the few ways, and they also work towards addressing or bringing up those harmful practices or cultural norms that are keeping society back. So they bring it to the attention, bring it up publicly. One of the things we also see is that people generally don't even know what is gender-based violence. So we've had, you have school-related gender-based violence. We've had safe spaces where we teach teachers what is school-related gender-based violence. And they talk about the changes between them and their pupils or the students in their schools, especially between a female teacher and her students. And the change they would wave through maybe physical violence or the abuse that the girls they meet up to them. And you mentioned something about mentorship. Mentorship also is a way, and role modeling. So through safe spaces, we have these opportunities for women and girls where they can learn, because even at the grassroots, we find that a lot of girls and women themselves are not aware of what they want to do with their money, even when they're earning some form of income. So it's about helping them to have goals, set goals, have a vision. What do I want to be in life? So for girls, they're just thinking, oh, to marry, which is nice. Having children is nice, but there's more to life than that. Because if you don't have a way to look after your family and your children, then we just continue to perpetuate the cycle of poverty and the injustices and inequalities that we continue to see in our society.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Doc, what are the innovative solutions that can improve healthcare access for women in rural areas in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think I'll start by saying that there's a saying that it's ludicrous to keep doing the same thing and to expect a different result. One of the things we have done as TAConnect is to scale the innovative approach to antenatal care, which is the group antenatal care program. What this does is that, the traditional ANC, the women come early in the morning, you sit down, a midwife will come and talk at you, you eat puff, you sing, you dance, you go home, and things like that. And at that point, as a country, we're looking, even tracking, what we're tracking was did this woman come for antenatal care 4 times. But the group antenatal care model, which had been also promoted by WHO, tracks the woman through 8 visits to the health facility before she delivers. It also does not put the woman in a crowd. It registers the woman into a cohort, a smaller cohort of women that have similar gestational age. Now, what this happens is that it really gives psychosocial support. These smaller groups, they're experiencing the same thing in pregnancy because they are all around the same age. They are even able to decide that with this group, we don't want to be coming early morning for antenatal. We want to come in the afternoon. We want to come in the evening. Now, through the process of the antenatal, they have different lessons that they learn at each meeting, as they call it, and they educate themselves. Some they take home. Some, as I said earlier, they bring their partners in for education. They learn a lot of things. And what this has resulted in is that a lot more of the women within those cohorts are choosing just about 40%. Within the group antenatal care cohort, we see 80, 87, 90s percent of the women delivering in facilities. It has been, the data has been encouraging, and now we are looking beyond, even after the tea break, women have delivered, but it has been successful. So we're saying we're keeping these women, these groups together. So they form the sisterhood, 8 to 15 women, different group sizes depending on the states. So that they can continue to bring their infants back for all the relevant immunizations and all other high impact interventions they can receive. But what do we do with these women in the communities? They are no longer pregnant, but they have all this knowledge. They become champions. And we want to actually add some kind of financial inclusion trainings and things for them, so they continue to pass it down to the younger women,
Fantastic.
even beyond the
Fantastic,
first year of life of their children.
Thank you, Doc. That's fantastic. Mr. Akinnusi, in 1 minute, please. What innovative digital solutions are available to improve women's access to financial services?
There are a ton of them, but I guess since I have 1 minute, I guess we need to first of all have the conversation about financial literacy. Like, that's crucial. Like, we keep trying to put the cart before the horse. I have a mother who, for the longest time, refused to sign up on her bank app, and she told me, directly said, I don't trust them. And it took me a long while to convince her to say, look, you don't have to drive all the way to the bank to get your money or to carry out transactions. And then with time, she does this thing where sometimes she waits for me to go home to say, oh, you're back. Come and teach me this, right? And remarkably, we see that when we talk about that age of people, there's a power issue there where we talk about power in development terms in a specific context. But the truth is, we exclude older women sometimes because it's like, you're not a digital native. You're not even a digital adopter, because we talk about the digital economy and then you hear folks making noise more often about content creation. And sometimes a lot of the trainings we've done, workshops we've done, is just, these women are not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I have a knitting business and I just need to get 5 more customers. And you teach them, oh, how about you put this on your status and write, this is how you can reach out to me. And they call you back saying, oh my God, I was able to convert 5 times more. And you see that the conversion, the innovation there was just quite literally digital advertising. And digital advertising doesn't have to be, learn all the funnels, email marketing and Facebook marketing and all of that. It's just being able to teach financial literacy on one hand, building the skills of these women on the other hand. I feel those are great innovations for digital economy.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a few comments from online. This one is from Agnes. Okay, this is actually a question. What are the go and no-go areas for women in this country? Women are so marginalized. Can you answer that in a minute?
What are the go and no-go areas?
Yes, for women.
I don't think there are any no-go areas. It's all a mindset as to what it is that if you put your mindset towards will not go somewhere, then you will not. So how do we change that mindset to say that as women, we can achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve within the context and traditional norms that we have, because we always have to put that, sometimes when we look at these things, we look at them from the international point of view, but how do we localize some of these things and say within the context of you come from, whether it be traditional or religion, I can achieve whatever it is that I put my mind. So I don't think there are any limitations to women, really.
Thank you. And this comment is from Mr. Olamide, and he's saying, Mr. Alabi, well said. Your points are valid. Access to agricultural productive resources for women are limited to enable harness opportunities and achieve livelihood, income, and food security. Do you have any questions from the audience? No formal handle.
So with the issue of lands for agriculture, we have heard of innovative agricultural practices like hydroponics and the likes. How can we leverage those to manage some of these land issues?
Well, you are right. That only reduce the, let me use the area of land you need. Hydroponic will not exist on sky. That's just it. And land, when we are even saying land, is everything associated with land, not just land itself, even water. Some people have the land. Hydroponic, you need water. Many people don't have access to that water that they can easily go into it. Some of those technology, there are, of course, we need to also educate people to know that there are cheaper models that can be used instead of buying most of these fabricated ones. You can easily use your paint bucket and the likes in a house. Will the landlord allow the person to carry out such practices? So it's just like that.
Another question or comment? None? On that note, I will ask the speakers to give, I'm going to give you 3 minutes each, the panelists will just give us your closing comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Peter.
All right. I think this has been an interesting conversation, and at the end of the day, we need to recognize where not just our biases exist, but where the biases in society exist, especially for women. From the digital angle, there's, like I said earlier, there's this, we need to be honest about what it means for a woman to thrive in safe community, what it means for a woman to exist within digital spaces without fear of harm. We also have to be sure that when we're talking about digital literacy and access, are we being honest about it? Because like a lot of times, I've seen instances where a child is on his phone, a boy skills and get acquainted with technological advancements for the boy affect the girl. We've all agreed that we've had so many conversations about what it means when women participate in active economy. So we need to be able to ensure that access is available, knowledge is available, safety is also available, and then skills are built for women.
Thank you. Had your hand on a bit, please. We have a comment from Anthony, and he says, this point the gentleman is making is great. Which of the greatest challenges women face? My mom had same issues until I came into the picture, which is a sad reality for many. Yes, ma'am. Your closing remarks, please. Yes, your closing remarks.
Okay. Yeah, so if we want to see strengthen gender policies, law enforcement, and accountability, we need to walk the talk. So we need to one, as CSOs, we're collaborating with government, with media, with the community. So it's really it's a collective effort that we need to work together, and it's working with. So it's about taking a really horizontal approach in terms of bringing everybody together to work towards this, and it's about educating people, knowing for them to know their rights and all. And also it's about providing funding for these gender policies. Legal enforcement are strengthened, and government is held accountable for these gender policies. It's no one size fits all. it's really about all of us. We have to be working on this together. And even as CSOs, we need to collaborate. It's not a competition. There's not enough of us as it stands for the, over 200 and something million people in this country, of which we keep saying 70% are in poverty. And that 70%, the majority are women and children that make up this poverty situation. So we really have a lot to do to see change happen.
Thank you, Hajia. Yes.
I think for me, it would still come back to the power of agency that was discussed here, whether it be the individual power or the collective power. We need to look at it in that way. What are the changes that we can make? I think I spoke to, sorry, so I don't take too much time. The holistic changes that we want to see as a nation also starts with us. What PIC has done today, there are 40, 50 of us here. If each of us can go and implement what we have learned here, then we can have that domino effect of changes that we would make. So for me, it would be that collective power of agency, basically, would be what I would say.
You took my closing line. Yes, sis.
Thank you. So for me, I would say that to improve maternal health issues is multi-sectoral. We, as I said, we have to look at the side of strengthening our primary health systems for women in the rural area. We have to make sure we have the right gender of workers with the right skill sets, and also improve the woman's agency to be able to take the decision on when to seek care and their capacity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your closing statement, please.
Yeah, I want to emphasize on collaboration. I want to also emphasize on the need to carry everybody along. If we look at most of the issues around this gender that we are talking about, they come from how people are socialized. And if we find a way to communicate to people, those people you think will not want to listen to you will even listen. And you'll be surprised at how they become, champions, like she suggested. Apart from that, there are some of these people that they are even afraid of the people that are watching them. If we don't engage them, we don't involve them, they will not express that fear. It is when they express that fear that we as technocrats can now come in and assist them in maneuvering that landmine. Because for them, it's landmines, really. You will be stripping them of their authority. You'll be stripping them of their relevance. They know, some of them know. But if you don't engage them, don't leave them behind thinking they will be the antagonist. No. Even if they will be the antagonist, let's keep on pushing.
Thank you. And of course, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I will say this, and they don't give me money to do this one, no be advert. One of the best things I've done for myself is to be here today. Honestly. And it's not just about the food, really. The food is amazing. But as people now, as gender development experts, what will you do differently? Because nothing changes if nothing changes. It's not enough to sit in this room and learn all what we have learned the last 5 days, and then there is no change in how you do things. There must be change. Who will give us a closing thought? Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So thank you so much for the honor done to me. I have been unable to stay for the entire period, but I'm really, very encouraged by the conversation that's been held here. I've done a lot of learning myself. We never stop learning. I'd like to congratulate you all. I think this panel has done really excellently, and Coach Diddi, I said I've heard of her. Thank God I'm meeting her today. you know, and really key is behavioral change. And I'm so glad that the Policy Innovation Center is focusing on that, because a lot of our problems stem from, as Maryam said, our mindset. And how he rounded up was really brilliant. We need to keep pushing. We need to listen more than we talk. And we need to keep engaging. We must push the boundaries, because we are very lucky to be where we are today. Many are not as lucky. Many are not exposed. Many are ignorant. Connecting the dots between why we're where we are is difficult for some. So we need to engage them and listen and try and guide them, because sometimes they just look at you and think, what do you know? Do you know what I'm going through? You know, we need to empathize more. And so I'd like to say thank you all for being a part of this, and congratulations on graduating from this. I believe you're
Thank
graduating
you.
today. Thank you, PIC.
Now, on that note, for those who are on YouTube and you're watching, go and borrow money and come and do this course. Thank you, everyone.